For 4 years now, a catchy groove has got everyone head bumping, clapping rhythmically, and smiling from ear to ear while creating a warm feeling of belonging, fueling a desire to be a part of this family. The Ocean family. Ocean Assemblies of God, a church of distinction, is a plant of River of God Church, Parklands, Nairobi, with its vision birthed to Reverend Samuel Matiko while still an associate pastor in Nairobi.
My name is Pastor Matiko Samuel. They call me Pastor Sach. I'm the lead pastor of Ocean Assemblies of God. I'm married to one beautiful woman by the name Pauline Ngendo Matiko, and we are blessed with many children. Actually, I gave my life to the Lord the year 2003. That was March 9th. And immediately the following year, I went to Bible school, did Bible and theology, completed. Then I went and I continued serving the same church that had given my life to the Lord. That is the River of God Church. It's a Kenya Assemblies of God congregation. I served there for quite a number of years. And all this time as I was serving, I knew at some point that one day I will have to leave and go and do something. But I didn't know exactly what that was because I was still not mature in faith and in service. But I kept serving faithfully under three pastors. That is Tony Pang, that was the first pastor I served under. Then later I served under Patrick Charlo, and then I served under Reverend Tony, Bishop Tony Kiama. And then I served under Tony Kiama for a very long period of time. And this is the time now I was certified by the Kenya Assemblies of God, and I served in different positions up to the position of an associate pastor. And it got into a time I felt as though my time was almost over in Malindi, even not in Nairobi, sorry, I'll keep saying Malindi because now my blood streams, they are full of Malindi. Anyway, so I served under Reverend Tony in Nairobi for quite some time. But I knew at some point I'll have to leave and I have to go and start. But I didn't know exactly where. Now, 2016, I felt in my spirit that 2017, I wanted to take a sabbatical and go and give, 1 year, service to my community. And by so doing, I felt I would go to Korea and plant a church. And so in my spirit, I felt this 2017, that's what I will do. So sometime 2016 is now when it was in the month of August. So we came with my family, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my family, my children, my wife. So we came to Malindi for holiday.
August 2016, we decided to come to Malindi for a holiday. In fact, we had gone to Mombasa for a holiday. We used to do, every year would go for a holiday somewhere. So we picked our children, and my mom and my sister were with us, and we came to Mombasa. And when we were in Mombasa, we were given 3 nights in Malindi by a couple friend of ours. We had met them way before, even before we got married. Dr. Caro and Dr. Paul, who are dentists in Nairobi, in Malindi. So they gave us 3 nights because then they were managing a resort somewhere here in Malindi. I can't remember the name. I think something Holiday Home. So they gave us 3 nights in their facility. And while we were there, one evening my husband had gone for a drive with Dr. Paul. And he wanted to know, so where do you guys go to church? How are churches here in Malindi? And then Dr. Paul says, by the way, we haven't gone to a church in the last about 6 months. And my husband was very shocked, and he said, I know you're a man of faith. How would you come to Malindi and you've never gone to church? He said, I've gone around, but I've never felt like I belonged. I've tried to go around and finding other churches, but I have never found that urban church like I was used to going when I was back in Thika in Nairobi. So he said, by the way, Pasi, you should consider coming to Malindi and planting a church. And my husband laughed about it. Now he was telling me that story afterwards.
As we were driving with Paul, he started to just share how Malindi needs an urban church, a church a modern church, a church like the one we have in Nairobi. And he was very serious talking about these things. But in my head, that was not something that I was ready for. I came for holiday. I didn't come for church discussion, what Malindi needs or Malindi doesn't need. That was not my concern. And so we drove all the way to this very apartments where we were living. We are staying with my family. And so, and that was the end of the discussion. So he left us, and I remember taking a seat beside this pool. And I was just seated now, late in the evening, around 6:30, they're about going to 7. And as I was seated right there, I heard clearly a voice. And this voice, I know it was from the Lord. And the voice was like, it is not Paul who is talking about this church plant, it is I. And so I'm calling you to come to Malindi and plant a church. At that particular moment, it just dawned on me that this was like the Macedonian call in the book of Acts, that actually this city, this county needed a church. And so it took some time for me to really ponder what God is saying, because I had my own questions. And one of the questions I was asking God is, God, is it really, really you? And if it is you, then I need you to convince one person, and that is my wife. Because I know for sure, many times I used to tell her, one day we'll plant a church. And she normally used to say, if the Lord speaks to you, the Lord also has to speak to me. And so I knew it has to take the hand of the Lord. So I was quiet. I didn't share with her that particular day. And so we left Malindi the following day, and we traveled back to Mombasa back to Nairobi. The same day we arrived in Nairobi, we drove to Kuria because we had a function. So we went to Kuria, and I remember going to Kuria. The moment we arrived and all that, I asked one of my friends called Okoko to drive me to this piece of land where in my head I had visualized starting a church right there. So we walked to that place. I inquired, some neighbors, the owner of the land, and then we came back. And in my head, I know exactly what the Lord had said, but I felt, is there any way I would do something on this other side? So we came back, we had the function, and after the function, we drove back to Nairobi. So driving back now, that's where we began the conversation with my wife. And I asked her, if the Lord calls us to go to Malindi, what is your take on this?
I said, if it is from the Lord, why not? And he was kind of surprised. I said, if it is from the Lord, then why not? I think it's about time. So he said, God has spoken to me that we should go to Malindi and plant a church. And I said, okay, let's pray about it. Let's hear what the Lord would want us to do later. So that was in August 2016. We continued praying. And while that was happening, I remembered there was a meeting we had gone with a group of people, and there was a lady, when we were seated with my husband, there was a lady who called us. She was a prophetess. And she said, she said there's a picket fence where we were. There was a picket fence, and we were just like, there was a green pasture on the other side. So from where we were, it was a muddy place, but the other place was, nicely done, beautifully done. And she said, God is saying, it's so easy for you to go on the other side, but it's not yet time. And we didn't understand what she was saying.
So went back to Nairobi, took some time, went and I met Reverend Bishop Tony Kiama, and I remember walking in his office all alone. And when I began sharing about this story, he told me, I cannot listen to what you have to say now. You have to go and come with your wife. So I booked an appointment again, went home, shared with my wife. Then the following day we came with my wife and we sat down and I shared with Kiama. And I remember the only thing he told me then was, thank you for what you've shared, so give me some time also to hear from the Lord. That was 2016, October. That was the day I shared with Kiama. Almost a month later, after the Lord had spoken to us. And so it took some time for Kiama to really digest because I know it was not an easy thing, you know, because Kiama had really discipled me when it comes to ministry. He had entrusted me so much, you know, and he believed that indeed I was doing what God had called me to do, especially in Nairobi. And there were quite a lot of opportunities, me serving and just, you know, doing ministry. But now time had come. And for him, I remember him saying, one of the things that he was afraid of was that day when I would walk in his office and tell him the Lord has called me to go and plant a church. So when I shared with him 2016, October, it took exactly like 1 year for us to be released from Nairobi. And so I remember the year 2017, August 27 is when we were now officially released. So we came together with my wife and my kids, and on 1st of September, we were in Malindi.
Reverend Samuel Matiko, together with his wife, Pauline Matiko, and their 3 children, were officially sent by River of God Church to Malindi to start a church.